Hey everyone, this is Ankur Warikoo and I'm super glad to be spending time with you all today. बहुत सारे लोग बहुत सारे सवाल अक्सर पूछते रहते हैं। मैंने सोचा कि एक पूरे वीडियो में मैं आप सारे सवालों के जवाब देने की कोशिश करूंगा। तो शुरू करते हैं with the first question. So I have had the absolute luxury and privilege of studying both in really good institutions within India. ISB was a terrific place to be, and then also studying in the US at Michigan State University, जहाँ मैं अपनी PhD कर रहा था. I went to Michigan after my college undergrad in India, and there was such a huge difference that I experienced क्योंकि I felt that the professors were actually engaged in the progress of the student. They were genuinely interested in figuring out whether students समझ रहे हैं, course अच्छे से हो रहा है कि नहीं. And the focus was not कि curriculum जल्दी से खत्म कर दो, we have to finish this chapter, this mode, and so on. It was just genuinely interested in how much is the student absorbing in the entire curriculum. Number two was the student group. For the first time, I had people from different nationalities study with me, so it was an absolutely unbelievable experience. We are trained in just the Indian way of thinking about things, तो वो रट्टा मारना, वो एग्जाम में जाके 2-3 घंटे में जो भी तुम सीखे हो, पढ़े हो, याद करे हो, वो सब कुछ उगल देना. But this was a very different way. The third was, of course, the cultural setting of an international country, and that was a terrific experience. Those 2 years just fundamentally changed my life in a meaningful manner. अगर आप एक सरप्राइज गिफ्ट जीतना चाहते हैं, so this is the way to do it. सबसे पहले इस चैनल को फॉलो करिए because this will only be eligible for people who are subscribers of this channel. नंबर 2, कमेंट सेक्शन में जाके अपना biggest takeaway from this video शेयर करिए. It could be whatever. It could be something that was funny, something that was serious, something that made you reflect, and we will select 3 lucky winners who will get a surprise gift from Leverage Edu. सब्सक्राइब करिए, कमेंट सेक्शन पे आपका बिग टेकअवे क्या था वो लिखिए, and then we will do the hard work of selecting the top 3 winners from that list. Actually, it didn't require any convincing because going abroad, at least back then, was like an aspiration and it's like the thing to be. And I come from a family which has never seen anybody go outside of the country to study. So for me to even have that goal in life कि मैं बाहर जाके PhD program करना चाहता हूँ was crazy. It was like औकात के बाहर. There was nothing in our family that suggested that we would be able to pull it off. पैसे नहीं थे, avenues नहीं था. Internet was nearly not the way it is today where you could research. I still remember, and I kid you not, I'm very old by the way, I'm 42, so you may not be able to relate to some of the things that I'm saying. उस ज़माने में, if you had to apply to universities, the universities would send their admission brochures in a printed booklet, which you had to pay for because it was an expensive thing to print. So it almost used to cost $5-10, और उस समय पे डॉलर I think 40-50 रुपए का था, and it suddenly was a huge sum of money, like 250-300 रुपए सिर्फ admission brochure के लिए, which would not be your application fee. It would just tell you what the university is. So I had these 5 or 7 universities के admission brochures that would come. I would study them. I would make sense of कहाँ apply करना है, किस program के लिए, किस university के लिए, so on and so forth. But I'm so glad that I had very supportive parents. I still have them, and they continue to support me in every endeavor of mine. So there were a few things that I learned while in the US as an Indian student that I don't think I would have learned in India. It was my first time staying away from home. तो अपने finances manage करना, and that too in a international country. अपने पूरे regulations का पालन करना, whether it's the laws of that country, whether it's the understanding or appreciation for what you can do and cannot do. You have to have a very different way of looking at life, looking at your time, looking at your relationships. I come from a time where I used to speak to my parents once every 2 weeks because that's all that I could afford. This is a time जब FaceTiming नहीं थी. This was a time जब WhatsApp नहीं था. A 10-minute call to India used to cost almost $5, which was a lot of money because I was on a scholarship. मेरे अपने खुद के पैसे नहीं थे. So I could only afford calling up my parents once every 2 weeks. And they didn't have a computer at home, तो email भी नहीं था. And that was the only connect that we had. That gave me a very different level of appreciation for the relationships I had with them, with everyone else. And I think studying abroad just makes you grow up as a person in ways that very few things can. The biggest thing that it did was make me comfortable with taking risks. It was a big risk for me to go to the US. It was a bigger risk for me to actually come back to India after having studied abroad. But because I did that, it set my mind in motion that if I could handle that, I could frankly handle anything. And entrepreneurship is really hard. It's not easy. It makes it look very cool क्योंकि media आपको दिखाएगी अरे 40-50-100 million dollar की funding, वो unicorn billionaire founder, वो ये वो या. So it looks like it's all hunky-dory and it's just magical, it looks very glamorous, but it is intensely hard to build a company, to grow that company, to make it profitable, and then to run it for a sustained period of time. And nothing prepares you for that. Nothing, frankly, prepares you for that. My international education gave me glimpses of what it would be, whether it's managing time, it's managing my mindset. I am by myself, far away from anyone that I know. Even if I want to come back to comfort, to a familiar ground, I don't even have the money to buy a ticket, and I will have to wait for at least a year, 2 years before I can afford to come back to India. All of that teaches you temperamentally a very different life than what you're used to. I think that risk appetite, that dealing with your own self, living with your own self, managing your own money, managing your own time, all of that are things that have helped me tremendously as I built up my entrepreneurial journey from 2009. The one marketing advice that I would give to anybody, whether they are a digital marketeer, a marketeer in general, a founder, perhaps even a professional, is always listen to the people that you're trying to sell to, because they will frankly tell you what they want. It's as simple as that. A lot of intelligent people fall prey to the fact that they think they know. This will be a fun experiment. आप सब लोग YouTube पे मुझे देख रहे हैं. My question to you is, how many of you are middle class? Take a second, pause, and answer that question. I'm certain almost 99% of you will say, I'm middle class. And then I'll ask you, what is the definition of middle class? And you'll be like, oh, ज़्यादा पैसे नहीं थे, हम बस में travel करते हैं, metro में travel करते हैं. That's middle class. But that's not middle class. You'll be surprised to know that middle class in India is someone who earns between 8 to 10,000 rupees a month. And I'd argue that if you are working, you are already earning a lot more than that. Just the fact कि आप YouTube पे अपने phone पे एक 4G या Wi-Fi connection पे इस वीडियो को देख पा रहे हैं tells me that you are above middle class. But you believe that you are middle class. And you know what happens because of that? कि अगर मैं आपको बोलूँगा कि आपको एक ऐसी marketing strategy बनानी है जो middle class India से बात कर पाए, who will you create that marketing strategy for? Yourself. क्योंकि आपको लगता है कि आप middle class हैं, but that's not true. It isn't. Until you don't speak to the people that you're trying to market to, you will always believe that you know what they already want. और हम सब लोग ना Steve Jobs नहीं है. तो बहुत लोग बोलते हैं, अरे अगर स्टीव जॉब्स या एप्पल लोगों से पूछता कि उनको क्या फोन चाहिए तो आईफोन कभी भी नहीं निकल के आता. That's an aberration. Please उस एग्जांपल को अपनी जिंदगी मत बनाइए. It happens rarely. What happens every single day is that the most successful marketeers you know are speaking actively to their target audience and figuring out what they need, which is the only piece of advice I would give to you as well. I love such questions, and I'll tell you why. I often ask these questions. What's the one moment? What's the one thing that you realize? What's the one big failure you've learned from? What's the one thing you would tell people? ये सब ना बहुत अच्छा लगता है कहानियों में, क्योंकि मूवीज में हम देखते हैं कि एक ऐसा मकाम आता है जहाँ हीरो हीरोइन की जिंदगी बदल जाती है, and we come to believe that that's how life is. I have had a very different experience with life. I don't remember any such moment. I don't remember a book. I don't remember a person. I don't remember an event. I don't remember happened once and changed my life forever. Everything has been gradual. Everything has been a journey. Everything is a realization and a reflection. So for me to pinpoint any such moment will actually be lying to you. I do receive a lot of wonderful feedback every single day. People who tell me that they've started investing because of my videos. People got courage through my videos. People got inspired through my videos. People went through really tough times and saw positivity through my videos. And all of that is a moment in time where I feel very grateful for where I am, the kind of impact that I can reach sitting so far away from you and yet so close to each other, and that's just a wonderful space to be in. So sorry, I don't have a moment. I have lots of them and I can't pick one. This is 2002 or so, and this was the time when Dil Chahta Hai movie had released, around about that same time or so. And I loved that movie. I think anyone who sees that movie would love that movie. It was a very different era, very different becoming of an adult kind of a movie. And within that, the title song, Dil Chahta Hai, was something that was my favorite. But there was one scene, if you haven't seen the movie, then you wouldn't perhaps be able to relate to it. Amir Khan hai, and then there is Akshay Khanna. And they were best friends, but they got into a rift, and Amir Khan realizes that he was at fault. So बिल्कुल आखिर में जाकर Amir actually apologizes to Akshay Khanna, and Akshay Khanna then says, no, let's meet. And Amir Khan then says, turn around, because he's right there when he's making that call to Akshay. And that was a very goosebumpy thing, because I would love to be in that space जहाँ मैं किसी को भी अगर कोई भी दुख या दर्द पहुँचाऊँ, then I have a way of apologizing in a way that I don't have to wait for hours or days or months or years before I can get to do that. So that song just somehow, and and that moment or that dialogue just somehow reminds me of my Michigan days when I came back from the US, dropping out of everything and decided to start my life all over again. The first thing is to be respectful of the culture. It could very well mean that the culture is very opposite to what you're used to. I'll share an example. I remember this was the first or the second month itself of Michigan State. I'm sitting in my office. As PhD students, we had an office, which was a shared office. But we had offices, which basically just meant a desk and a chair and a computer. And one of my fellow PhD students was sitting on his chair with his legs up on the table, like we would if you're relaxing. And the professor walked in and he didn't even move. Like, he kept talking to the professor with his legs on the table and he just kept sitting. And I was like, holy shit, what is he doing? Does he not understand respect? And that was very, very stark to what we are all raised in. But I realized that for the US, respect does not come from a title or a position or a designation. Respect actually comes in just conduct. So it's not that the student thought the professor is any lesser. The professor knew a lot and the student accepted it for who he is, but that doesn't mean that he has to show respect in a fashion that he's not used to. So when you enter a new country, don't necessarily adopt their culture because you feel it'll be cool and you will feel included. Don't stick by your own culture because you think that that's the moral high ground and the culture you should be in. Try and understand, try and respect it. And over time, you will hopefully find an appreciation for how they operate, how you operate, and you will find a middle ground. The worst thing that you can do, by the way, and I would not suggest that, I know a lot of you might be applying to international countries for education or perhaps are on your way to go there. Please just don't spend time with Indian students. Don't spend time with people of your own country, your own city, your own locality, your own college. Because the more you spend time with people who are like you, the lesser you know something new about the world. Because then that will destroy the exact purpose of why you would have gone to an international country to study. So applying to international countries is very, very different from most of our experiences. Our experience of applying to colleges is that you sit for an entrance exam, go through that test, then your results are announced, you get a rank, and then you sit for something called counseling. Or basis your scores in school, you get admission into a college. It's very different for international countries. You have to write something called a statement of purpose. You have to get letters of recommendation. You have to give examinations which are standardized, whether it's a GRE or it's a TOEFL or it's an IELTS or so on and so forth. And it can become overwhelming. I fully respect and appreciate that question. Here are 3 things that will help. Number 1, make it into a discipline and a routine. I have seen a lot of students make the mistake that they push the application to the last date. क्योंकि हमारी फितरत ऐसी है, हम हर चीज लास्ट में करते हैं. वो असाइनमेंट का जो टाइम और डेडलाइन होगा उससे बस 5 मिनट पहले ही हम अपनी असाइनमेंट सबमिट कर रहे होंगे. Don't make that so, because this is a application very different from what you're used to. वक्त लगेगा, सोचने में वक्त लगेगा, तैयारी करने में वक्त लगेगा, letters of recommendation लाने में वक्त लगेगा. All of that needs to be part of a plan. Number 2, seek assistance. There are people who can do this for you. Like Leverage Edu is a platform that allows you to go through this entire process in a formal professional fashion. There will be counselors that will take care of every single need of yours, right from कौन सी universities या countries में apply कर सकते हैं, to statement of purpose कैसे लिखा जाए, to तैयारी for the examinations, what should the letter of recommendation look like, how should you go about applying for those universities, going through the entire mile, helping you with even scholarships if you get the admission. All of that is taken care of. Why wouldn't you use that to your benefit? Because I know of a lot of my fellow students back then who went through similar professional help and they benefited immensely from that. So please use that. And number 3, which is often ignored, is reach out to alums from those universities because they are the best way to seek help. उन्होंने ये पूरा process already किया हुआ है. वो समझते हैं कि कौन सी चीज करनी चाहिए, कौन सी चीज नहीं करनी चाहिए. And if you reach out to them, genuinely asking for help, then most will want to help. And that is a great way for you to get that clarity कि कौन सी चीज कब कैसे. At the end of it, the work still has to be done. It will be, as I said, a lot of work, but that is what is different about the application process for international countries. One, my own self. I am my best friend. I love myself. I love spending time with myself. I know all my secrets. I know all my strengths. I know all my weaknesses. I am absolutely accepting of who I am, irrespective of what I can do and not do. And I will always make it a point that I spend time with myself to cater to myself. And it baffles me how many people don't do that. They keep looking for relationships and they keep looking for other things to numb their senses so that they don't have to spend time with themselves because they're scared of what they might find or what they might discover. Number 2, my family. That's everything that I have, because that frankly is my support system. I consider my closest friends as also my family, so I look out for them, and I love the fact that they look out for me. They can call my bullshit out. They can tell me when I'm wrong. They are immensely happy when I am happy. They're immensely happy when I am successful. They pull me up when I'm down, and that's frankly the best thing that I can ask for. And the third thing is the mission that I am on, which is to spread awareness. मुझे लगता है कि हम बहुत बार जिंदगी में choices ignorance की वजह से लेते हैं, awareness की वजह से नहीं. हमें ज़्यादा पता नहीं होता है, and that's why we choose the decision that we choose as against trying to find out everything about the decision we are about to make. तो मेरा मकसद मेरे content के through, मेरे किताबों के through, मेरे courses के through, or anything else that I will do in the future is to spread awareness. I just know one thing that I would love to do before I die, but beyond that, there are so many things that I'm just waiting to be surprised at. That one thing is I do want to go to Mars. I think I will go to Mars for sure in my lifetime, unless I just die before it happens. That is one thing that I genuinely would love to do and I'm working towards. आपके सवालों का जवाब देने में बहुत मजा आ रहा है. अगर आपके पास कोई भी और सवाल हो जो मैं इस वीडियो में आंसर नहीं करूंगा, तो प्लीज कमेंट सेक्शन में अपना सवाल पूछिए, एंड जब वो सारे सवाल आएंगे, we will do another series with me answering your questions. No, I will not be a co-founder. And I don't mean any disrespect to you or your idea. I just don't have the bandwidth to become a co-founder for anybody, including my own idea. That said, there are two things that I would tell you. One is, it's a great idea, but because it will be a significant investment that you'll have to make before you even test the idea out, find ways of testing this idea before you launch the idea. You can't be found opening an entire hotel, which is a luxury hotel, only to realize कि कोई अपने pets को वहाँ भेजना ही नहीं चाहता. Because that'll be a disaster of money, time, effort that you would have spent making that happen. So please find ways of testing this idea before actually launching the idea. So here's something that's happened in the last 2.5 years, which is fascinating. The last 2.5 years, the entire world was locked up in some shape and form. Travel was restricted, boundaries were sealed, but the biggest beneficiary of that was talent, because talent suddenly became global. Somebody sitting in a tier 2, tier 3 city in India, but knows how to code, knows how to design, knows how to edit, knows how to write, knows how to translate, could be working for anybody, anywhere in the world. And that just blew up the opportunities that we sit on as a country. My prediction, over the next 10 to 20 years, India as a talent powerhouse is going to explode. We will see most of you go on and work for international clients and be located wherever you want to be located. And that, I believe, is the best thing that COVID brought to us. Of course, notwithstanding the lot of damage, pain, and suffering that a lot of people went through. I don't think, by the way, that's ever happening. If it were to happen today, I think I would want Ranveer Kapoor to play my younger self and Aamir Khan to play my current self. And if I were to pick a name, I'll actually let Aamir Khan decide. If I had to start a new company, I would certainly start it in the education space. I believe that education for the next 10-20 years, particularly for our country, would be meaningful, because we're going to see the biggest influx of young minds enter the workforce. And if we do a good job of skilling them, getting them ready for that workplace, then we are going to reap the benefits of that as a country. So that is something that I would certainly do. No, because I was the one making the ghar ka khana. I was actually very famous in the Indian student circle to be the one who made authentic Indian food. मैं खुद अपना पनीर बनाता था, क्योंकि खरीदने की हैसियत नहीं थी, तो मैं genuinely दूध फाड़कर पनीर बनाता था. And that used to be such a hit. Palak paneer and paneer matar and whatnot. So we used to have this Thursday potluck. This was a time when Friends, the sitcom, was still running, and Thursday used to be the screening of that. So every Thursday evening, we would have like a potluck where I would make the sabzi and the dal, and then people would get rice, koi kahin se mithai le aata tha, and that used to be like a gala, sit down, 8-10 friends and so on. I never really missed Indian food because I made it myself. there were no such forums such as Leverage Edu for me to even explore what lay outside. So everything was just a function of my own understanding, and that was very limited back then of where I could apply what I could do. Today I know that if I wanted to study theoretical physics, which is what I went for, I could have gone to Germany, I could have gone to UK, but back then everything was like, just go to the US, these are the 5 universities that you should apply to, which are the top universities. So I wish I had something like Leverage Edu that you guys all have today. But back then I applied to 5 universities, 4 didn't accept me, and Michigan State did, so I'm glad that they did. God bless whosoever saw my application. Oh, my day as a student at Michigan used to be a lot of fun. I used to get up at around 7 or so, make breakfast, head for my university, which would be about 8, 8:30. My classes used to begin at around 9. Go on till about 12, 12:30. It wasn't an intense program academically. I then at around 12, 12:30 used to go for lunch, be back by about 1, 1:30, and then it used to be academic work. I was a research student, so I had to do my research. So that used to be about 5-ish or so, at which point I used to then go and hit the gym, and I used to work out till about 6. In the winters, it gets dark really fast. At about 4 or so, the sun sets. If it's the summers, then the sun is out till like 9, 9:30 in the night. So depending on the season, my day used to end early or not. At about 6, I used to come back home, prepare dinner, sit down for television or something, or just hang out with my roommates at about 7 or so. And then I used to just sit down and have fun. And I think I used to sleep really late, at about 11, 12 or so. Now life is very, very different. I get up very early, I have a set routine. I start work at about 9, 9:30. I finish work by about 5 or 6 or so, spend time with my family, sleep really early. I sleep between 9 and 9:30 every day now. So very different life than what I used to have as a student. But I think that was necessary at that point. This is necessary at this point, and both can coexist in a lifetime. I have been in the content creation world for a really long time. Most people wouldn't know of it because most of my success has come in the last 2.5 years. I have been, for example, blogging since 2005. It's been 17 years. I write a blog every day, and I've been doing so for the last 17 years. I started my blog as a business school student at ISB, and I continue doing that. I started creating videos since 2015. First on LinkedIn, then on YouTube in 2017, then on Instagram in 2018. I've been sharing content on LinkedIn since 2013. I started with Quora in 2012. I don't even know how many of you know about Quora. So I have been in this for a long while. Again, what happened during COVID in the last 2.5 years is that people had a lot of time with nowhere to go. So they started consuming a lot of content. I happened to be also creating a lot more content during this period, and the two just converged. So I'm grateful that I happened to be at the right place at the right time, and things worked out for me. But content is something that I genuinely enjoy, and I've been creating for a really long while. With that, thank you so much for spending time with me. आपके सवाल बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग थे. They got me thinking, and I always love that. Of course, जो हर एक YouTube वीडियो पे बनता है, अगर ये वीडियो आपको पसंद आ रहा है तो लाइक, शेयर, कमेंट, because that's the usual thing to do. अगर आपको ये इंटरेक्शन पसंद आई, then you can also ask Leverage कि और किस क्रिएटर के साथ एक इंटरेक्शन आप चाहते हैं, because then that will make it very interesting for you. आपके फेवरेट क्रिएटर्स, आपके फेवरेट लोग, जो कोई भी आप जाना चाहते हैं, they will come and answer questions for you, and if you ask enough, it might get answered. See you all. Ankur Warikoo, signing off. Can I introduce myself in an American accent? Hey everyone, my name is Ankur Warikoo.